Well, this is kind of the last before shot. In this video, I'm going to start the process of tearing this engine down, getting it to just the bare block. I'm going to remove the exhaust manifold, intake manifold, water pump, pulley, all this wiring and whatnot, just to basically strip it down to get it to the point where I can start the process of really giving this engine a deep clean and degreasing it, get it ready to prep it for paint. I want to paint the block, paint the valve cover. I like to get it all freshened up before I start installing some of the new parts. So one last look before I get started. Okay, well, as you can tell, I've got the motor stripped down pretty well. Got the intake and exhaust manifold off, and the engine mounts, crank pulley, and some of the miscellaneous brackets. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to try to come up with a way to kind of close these exhaust and intake ports so I can begin the process of degreasing this engine and getting it ready to paint. One other concern I had was if I was going to be able to reuse the header that I currently have on the 20R. And looking at the old exhaust manifold, it seems like it's not going to be an issue. It looks like the 20R and the early 22R share the same bolt pattern for the exhaust manifold anyway. So looks like I'll be able to reuse that. Here's what the engine looks like so far. Another round of degreasing and scrubbing. It's not perfect, but you know, it's getting there. You can see the other side, it's looking a little bit better. And in the meantime, pull off the valve cover, just kind of take a look at everything. It looks pretty good. I did have some noise when the engine was running, and just as I suspected, the timing chain guide on the right side, I don't know if you can see it, is broken. So that's what the rattling was coming from. So I'm definitely going to need to replace that with a metal one. So I'm gonna get that on the way, and I believe that once I pull off this front cover in the oil pump down below, I should have access to remove the hardware that's holding that chain guide on there. The driver's side one appears to be okay. It is plastic, unfortunately, so I may look into replacing that one as well. Hopefully I don't need to pull off the chain, but it looks like I should be able to do the driver's side one without too much trouble. But otherwise, the valve train looks pretty good. Looks pretty clean for the most part. But yeah, so far so good. Now to start pulling off the front cover. All right, so that's about as far as I'm going to tear this down. I've got the oil pan off, so I'm going to clean that, re-gasket it. And you can see here looks like it was about to fall off anyway. So it was completely broken. So again, I'm going to replace that with a metal guide. But yeah, I guess need to just start cleaning this up a little bit more, remove some of the old gasket material, and get a list of parts together that I'm going to need to order to get this all back together. All right, so in between waiting for parts and cleaning up the engine itself, I've also been taking the time to clean the hardware. The hardware for the water pump is done. Got this cleaned up as best I can. Just kind of a mixture of letting it sit in some engine degreaser for a little bit, and then moving it over to like a dish soap rinse to get the rest of the grease off. And the zinc finish seems to stay on it pretty well, so I'm just going to continue doing this, and eventually I'll get the rest of this stuff cleaned up. All right, as you can see, it's not perfect, but definitely looks a lot better than when I put it in. This kind of gives you an idea how kind of gross everything was. I'm going to clean up the rest of these. This is the hardware for the front cover, so like I said before, I just put them in this Dawn dish soap bath to just get the rest of the grease off of it. All right, so this is where I am so far. I've degreased the block itself a couple times. For the most part, it's just about there. That back portion is going to need a little bit more work to before it's cleaned up for paint. And so this is what I'm going to be working on next. Is I need to remove the remaining pieces of the old plastic timing chain, and spend an hour cleaning the oil pan. And you can see this is the part of the timing chain guide that fell off in that last clip, but some of these other pieces, I actually found these in the oil pan itself. Just the pieces that have broken off over time, or it's possibly pieces from the original plastic timing guide, because this looks to be some kind of replacement, but you know, realistically I don't really know. There's all kinds of junk in the oil pan as that plastic guide was shaved away. But yeah, so this is all cleaned up. This is ready to be put back on once I kind of clean up the edges a little bit and reinstall that gasket. But I'm gonna go ahead and remove this part here, and actually have a metal replacement, which is recommended when replacing these. You should never put the plastic ones back on, and it's only a few bucks more to upgrade to the metal ones, and that'll probably last the life of the motor. And I still need to remove this front gasket and kind of clean up the surfaces to get it ready to get that front cover back on. This is the progress I've made so far. Spent an hour or so on it, and it's about as good as it's going to get. So now what I need to do is get the new timing chain guide on there and just kind of clean it up one more time to get the gasket and the timing cover on. This is the timing cover guide that I got. It's just one of the options you can get from Rock Auto. Anyway, it is metal. It is metal, but there is a kind of a hard rubber plastic surface on the side that will make contact with the timing chain. But otherwise, yeah, this is definitely going to last a lot longer than what used to be there. So now it's time to get that on.